Take a look at these Facebook groups. On the surface, sure, they might look like your run-of-the-mill adoption agencies, but take a second look. This time, focusing on the disturbing exchanges happening inside these groups. Screenshots of transactions, pleas for newborns and babies, advertisements for children that need new homes, suggestions to move incriminating conversations over to DMs. A quick scroll through these groups and you'll find all of this, along with comments and posts that expose a trade that preys on the most innocent and vulnerable among us, children. I have baby still in tummy, but ready to adopt in November. Comment who wants to adopt. There's a 5-month pregnancy boy available. I'm interested. Facebook is no longer just for purchasing used goods, services, and crafts. It's a platform for buying and selling children. Online, predators hide in plain sight. Take Facebook, for example, a platform where open and private groups make it easy to access and share explicit content involving children. In 2017, BBC News launched an investigation into Facebook's seedy underbelly, inciting a feud between the social media giant and the news team.
We found men with a interest in children using the groups to share images.
Many of the pictures in these groups are obscene, indecent. But what's as disturbing is that many other pictures appear to have been stolen, and disgusting comments have been written about completely innocent pictures.
BBC reported 100 of these posts for violating Facebook's own guidelines. But here's the twist. Only 18 posts were taken down. The remaining 82, they went untouched. Yep, according to Facebook, these posts didn't breach their community guidelines, which raises the question, what does? BBC decided to dig deeper and asked for an interview to get the scoop on Facebook's content moderation system. They even provided examples of posts that raised red flags. But instead of cooperating, Facebook did something shocking. They reported the journalist to the police.
Well, that's extraordinary because you're helping them. You're trying to help them clean up their network from material that shouldn't be there. When you give them examples that they themselves have asked for to back up your complaint, for them to act by referring you to the police, referring the BBC to the police, rather than acting upon the information they've been given, it is extraordinary and shows a complete lack of understanding of the issues that were presented to the people at Facebook, whoever dealt with this complaint, and is concerning.
When it comes to leaving children vulnerable, Instagram is just as guilty. But how can a bit of harmless scrolling and liking lead to something more sinister? In 2023, researchers from Stanford and the University of Massachusetts Amherst, along with journalists from the Wall Street Journal, looked into how Instagram has become the go-to network for child exploitation.
And what we found working alongside the Wall Street Journal is that there's a huge network of what we call self-generated CSAM. So this is self-generated child material. These are teenagers who are putatively selling their own imagery and videos effectively as a commercial business that they have set up on a variety of platforms. And while there are a bunch of companies involved, Instagram turns out to be probably the most key one because it is the place where these buyers and sellers find each other.
As for finding each other, well, what's an algorithm for if not bringing people together?
Instagram, through its algorithm, is in fact creating a network of individuals that can share this content with one another.
It's even possible for users to search through explicit hashtags, such as pedo, preteen, bait, creating a direct line for potential predators to connect with children. Of course, when searching for explicit terms, a warning would pop up saying, these results may contain images of child SA. Users were then given two options, get resources or see results anyway. After some questions from the Wall Street Journal, Instagram decided to take away the option to see those search results. However, they did not clarify why it was allowed in the first place. Yet while hashtags might make it seem like these bad actors shamelessly operate in the open, research suggests that there is an underground element when it comes to promoting harmful content on Instagram. For example, this online community is known for using emojis as codes, like a map emoji that means minor attracted person, or cheese pizza as short for CP. Some even call themselves lovers of the little things in life. Other accounts call themselves seller, or seller with a 3, and mention how they want to be paid in their bios. They often hint at a child's age by saying things like, on chapter 14, or age 31, with a reverse arrow emoji. Samuel Levine from UMass pointed out that some of these accounts show signs of trafficking, like one that had a picture of a teenager with the word whore written on her face. Once users find an account that sells CA material using these hashtags or codes, following them and even liking their posts draws them further into a disturbing network of similar suggested accounts and posts.
But why is it alarming? An app, a platform, should be restricting these search queries like these. The fact that users can search and can get connected to accounts involved in questionable behavior is a big concern.
As the Wall Street Journal put it, pedophiles have long used the internet But unlike the forums and file transfer services that cater to people who have interest in illicit content, Instagram doesn't merely host these activities. Instagram connects pedophiles and guides them to content sellers via recommendation systems. It's a stark reminder that the algorithm is hard at work, linking users with similar interests in ways that could lead straight to criminal networks. And once these predators find connections in Facebook groups or on Instagram, that's when the real game begins. These social media groups and accounts often share links that lead users to encrypted messaging platforms, where they can bond over their unsettling interests, away from prying eyes.
From the time I was born until I was 10 years old, I lived in my home, documenting my body and the way it was every year as I grew. We took these images and videos, and when the technology became available, began distributing them online. When end-to-end encryption goes through, the number of people who've seen the imagery could increase twofold, and they could now feel safe swapping the material because the platform's telling them no one's scanning for the criminal activity in the first place.
Over the years, WhatsApp and Telegram have become hotspots for these illegal exchanges. After all, with end-to-end encryption by default that only allows the sender and recipient to see what's being said, these apps are like a secret club, where outsiders, including law enforcement, can't peek in. But is there some sort of invisible link between these platforms that we're not seeing? Well, it turns out that Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp all fall under a parent company, the Meta Platforms Incorporated. In November 2022, 29-year-old Jennifer Louise Whelan was arrested for the trafficking and indecent assault of 3 young children, all aged 6 and under. Investigations revealed that Whelan was using these children to produce explicit material and sell them to a buyer named Brandon Warren through Facebook Messenger. Court documents indicated that Brandon provided specific instructions to Jennifer on how to create the videos, even suggesting manipulative phrases to use with the children. As for how this case connected to Meta Platforms Incorporated, it turned out the payments for these transactions were made through MetaPay, the parent company's own payment service. Meta has confirmed that they report suspicious payments related to child exploitation and support law enforcement efforts. However, concerns are growing about the company's role in facilitating child exploitation, especially since a significant portion of the nearly 29 million cases of online explicit material involving children that were reported in 2021 came from their platforms. Critics aren't holding back, saying Meta isn't doing enough to protect vulnerable users. Take the case of Jennifer Whelan and Brandon Warren, for example. Their activities didn't raise any alarms for Meta. In fact, it was actually Kick Messenger that spotted Warren's uploads and triggered a police investigation. But while it's clear to many that Meta has crossed an ethical line, what impact has the company's failure to take action against the dangerous communities invading their platforms had on the children involved? Back in 2024, the New York Times ran a story about a mom who's been managing her daughter's Instagram account since 2020, a venture that, on the surface, seemed to be a massive success. Alyssa, identified by only her middle name to protect her daughter's privacy, has racked up over 100,000 followers by posting photos of her daughter in various outfits, from evening dresses to leotards, with some fans even going the extra mile to pay $9.99 a month for exclusive content. But it hasn't been easy for Alyssa. Over the years, she's found herself on the receiving end of criticism for selling pictures of her daughter, and creepy comments that she can't help but assume are from pedophiles. Still, that doesn't mean Alyssa will be shutting down her daughter's account anytime soon. No, according to the mother, that would be giving in to the bullies. The bullies, however, well, they had their own ways of intimidating the mother and daughter. Things escalated when someone threatened to report Alyssa to their police unless she completed a small task. When she ignored them, the parent emailed her daughter's school, falsely accusing her of selling naughty pictures. A few days later, her daughter broke down, revealing school officials had interrogated her about the account. After showing her mom's posts, one of her in hot pants and fishnets, another in a leotard and sweatshirt, her daughter was left confused and upset. Alyssa reported the threats, but the school only stopped investigating after putting the girl through emotional questioning. In the same article, a mother from Melbourne who's running her daughter's Instagram account was also interviewed by The Times. "I don't really want my daughter exploited on the internet," Kaylin, who also chose to go by her middle name, told the publication. "But she's been doing this for so long now. Her numbers are so big. What do we do? Just stop and walk away?" Parents who manage their children's social media accounts say that their children enjoy being on social media, and it is important for a future career. A study by Morning Consult shows that 57% of people in Gen Z say they'd be an influencer if the opportunity presented itself. For Kaylin, though, her daughter's quest for online fame has taken a concerning turn. She worries that her now 17-year-old daughter's childhood, which involved posting photos in bikinis online mostly for men, may have left lasting emotional scars. She's written herself off and decided that the only way she's going to have a future is to make a mint on OnlyFans, she said, referring to the platform where users can sell adult content to subscribers. She has way more than that to offer. Kaylin admitted that with the wisdom and knowledge she has now, if she could go back, she wouldn't make her daughter a social media influencer. "I've been stupidly, naively feeding a pack of monsters, and the regret is huge," she said. Yet despite a growing awareness that there are people who wish to do children harm lurking online, parents continue to post their kids, and sometimes interest from adults is exactly what they're looking for. In the Philippines, a chilling trend is emerging. Women are selling their babies. a dark and thriving black market is taking shape, with cash being exchanged for innocent lives. But why is this happening? For the adopters, it all boils down to how complicated legal adoption is in the Philippines. Besides navigating age requirements, there's a mountain of paperwork, long waiting times, and financial burden. Processing fees alone can soar up to 110,000 pesos or $2,000. As for those who are choosing to sell their children, well, for many, the financial incentive is just too hard to resist. In 2020, the Philippines recorded 1.53 million births, which was one of the highest birth rates in Asia. At the same time, the coronavirus pandemic plunged many Filipinos deeper into poverty, with widespread job losses. As a result, nearly a quarter of the country's 110 million people now subsist on just $7 or 400 pesos a day. This has led mothers in extreme financial despair to face the harrowing choice of giving up their children to survive. One of these mothers is Olivia. Since their lives had been shattered by the pandemic, her family had been homeless for over a year, their only shelter being the inside of a tricycle. Olivia's husband had asthma and couldn't work without her help, so they got by on scavenging. However, after Olivia became pregnant with their fourth child, things were even tougher for them. In the Philippines, family planning groups promote voluntary surgical contraception like ligation. While the government has promised to improve access and share information about these methods, many couples still don't know much about them or feel hesitant because of cultural stigma. Vice Asia asked Olivia how long she's been trying to manage family planning in these tough circumstances.
6 na taon na.
It has been 6 years. That's why I was almost in tears when I learned about my pregnancy. I was very disappointed because I was supposed to be ligated.
Dapat talaga magpapatali na ako like.
But the doctor told me I was too young and I can have more children. So I just opted for an implant. But the implant didn't work because it wasn't placed properly. When the tricycle they relied on for shelter and scavenging broke down and the rainy season began approaching, Olivia's only wish was for her unborn child to escape a similar fate. In desperation, she considered selling her baby.
Ayanin kasi hirap na kami.
I have to because we were already struggling to survive. I'd rather not know her at all because it will only hurt me if I begin to care for her only to give her away. It would be better to send her off as soon as I give birth. I will give her to someone who is well off, good, and someone who will not mistreat her. But what will happen now that this illegal trade has gone virtual? That's right. Social media is worsening the crisis by making it disturbingly easy to locate these vulnerable children for sale. A lot of these transactions happen through fake accounts, especially on Facebook, where you'll find groups that misleadingly call themselves adoption or orphanage pages. Most of the time, the people involved post anonymously. Birth moms, often called B moms, share details like when they're due, where they're located, and the baby's gender. Some even post their baby's pictures online for more authenticity. There are some B moms who are generally looking for loving families to adopt their babies. In their posts, they often mention that they have no demands, just a heartfelt desire to find a better future for their little ones. But this isn't always the case. Some B moms start making demands like transportation fares or checkup fees, and when they're close to their due dates, or even after they've had the baby, they then might ask for a specific price. They can range anywhere from 10,000 pesos, equivalent to about 170 USD, to 50,000 pesos, over 800 USD. As a result, there are cases where both buyers and sellers end up getting scammed in these groups. Buyers are often pressured to meet certain demands, only to get blocked after sending money for checkups. On the flip side, sellers can find themselves ghosted by potential buyers. It's a messy trade, and the stakes are high for everyone involved. In this market, there are also brokers or middlemen who connect buyers and sellers. In the Vice Asia story, they spoke with Jenny, who was among them.
Pag may lumalapit po sa akin na
When there are parents who approach me because they can't take care of their child anymore, I help them. They do it voluntarily for the welfare of the child instead of it loitering in the streets.
Do you ever get compensation for helping?
They just give me financial help for expenses like rice. That's just around 1,000 to 2,000 pesos for buying rice. But what's being done to protect the victims in this trade? The children. In 2019, the National Bureau of Investigation, NBI, launched an investigation into this illegal trade happening in Facebook groups. One of their agents went undercover as a potential buyer, chatting with a group member until they arranged a meetup at a fast food restaurant. They settled on a price of 40,000 pesos, over $600. From there, the risks of this exchange became clear. While the NBI agent was chatting with the buyer asked for her to follow her husband's instructions, since he would be the one meeting up with them. One of their big concerns was the CCTV or that other people might notice the interaction, which could make the whole meetup risky.
We were surprised. Parang sanay na sanay
We were
sila.
surprised how experienced they were. They gave our agent a list of do's and don'ts to avoid getting caught. That when they meet at the fast food restaurant, they were told to act casual, and the money wouldn't be exchanged there. It would only happen in the comfort room. The day of the meetup arrived, and the actual NBI operation was set in motion. Both parents of the baby were there, along with the middleman and her husband. As they handed over the baby in exchange for cash, the group was likely under the assumption that the mission had been a success. Little did they know it was about to be a big win for the NBI agents, who were ready to catch them in the act. It was chaos inside the mall. Shoppers all around had no clue what was happening. But one thing was clear, these people were up to no good. The three suspects, the baby's parents and the middleman's husband, were taken to the FBI office, where the truth started to unfold. It turned out the middleman was actually still a minor and pregnant. She was then sent to the city's Social Welfare and Development Office for support. As the parents were questioned, they revealed that their baby, just 11 days old, was their first child. They felt compelled to sell him because they believed they couldn't provide him with a bright future. That's when they stumbled upon a Facebook group and found themselves in the black market baby trade. The twist was that the parents had no idea they were selling their child to the undercover FBI agent. Nope, turned out they had been messaging someone else, the middleman who planned to sell their baby again for an even higher price. The reason we felt compelled to let him adopt our baby was because his wife shared heartfelt stories. They explained that they had been trying to have a child for 4 years and were now eager to adopt. We have no idea about the 40,000, sir. All I know is that they were going to sell my baby again for a much higher price. The middleman's husband tried to defend himself by saying he had no idea about their transaction since it was his wife's Facebook account being used. But then he tripped himself up, claiming that someone else had been using her account, trying to prove they were both innocent. Aside from this operation, the FBI has also conducted several undercover operations to catch others who are selling their babies through Facebook transactions. Back in July 2024, a woman was caught trying to sell a 6-day-old baby for 25,000 pesos, or over 400 USD, in Montelupa City. It all kicked off when the FBI received a tip about someone peddling a baby online. They dug around and sent it to an agent to pose as a buyer. The woman, who claimed to be a midwife, was all too willing to show off the baby. When they met up and the agent confirmed the sale, it was game over. The FBI swooped in for the rest. Although the Department of Justice, or DOJ, kept her name under wraps, the FBI identified her as Christina Pauly. Then, in September 2024, a 28-year-old father in Quezon City got arrested after trying to sell his 11-month-old baby online. According to reports, when the FBI agents showed up for an undercover operation, he even used his baby as a human shield. They found out he had posted an ad online offering his baby for 55,000 pesos, or about $960. But according to authorities, he didn't do this for money. He did it for revenge. Yes, the father allegedly tried to sell his baby to get back at his ex after she refused to take him back. Just a week later, another woman in Caloocan City was arrested for selling her 1-day-old baby for 40,000 pesos. The sale took place at a clinic in the same city, where authorities apprehended the suspect and rescued the baby. After giving birth to her first child only a couple of days earlier, she explained that she felt she had no choice but to sell her baby. She was out of work, had lost touch with the baby's father, and needed the money for her father's maintenance medications, which he was unaware of. But as a recent case proves, this isn't just a problem abroad.
This sounds unbelievable. A woman trying to sell a baby on Facebook, but police in Houston say it happened and that it was brazen.
3 days before her son was born, 21-year-old Juniper Bryson allegedly messaged a relative she referred to as Aunt Jenna to see if there was a family member who would be willing to adopt the child. In the messages, Juniper reportedly explained that she couldn't keep the baby because he will be positive.
Juniper Bryson was indeed talking about she was struggling with addiction.
The aunt posted on her own Facebook page to see if anyone was interested in adopting the baby so it wouldn't go into foster care. However, as people began messaging Juniper, it became clear the mother was after more than just a loving home. Yes, according to police reports, Juniper wanted something in return for her child: cold hard cash. When Juniper allegedly confided in her Aunt Jenna about her plan, the family member reportedly responded, "What do you mean compensate? Like pay you money for the baby? You want money for your baby? That's illegal. That's human trafficking." "No, it's not. It's surrogacy," Juniper allegedly replied. "Just enough to move into an apartment so I can work a job and get my daughter back, or a cheap down payment, or any card to get to different places to DoorDash. Nothing crazy at all." Juniper then began posting in Facebook groups like the ones we've discussed, searching for prospective parents. In her post, she didn't mention compensation. However, in private conversations, she would allegedly bring it up, becoming angry and shutting down conversations when people showed any hesitation. One same-sex couple had reportedly driven halfway from Louisiana to Houston when Juniper allegedly requested they send her $150. When they asked to discuss this over the phone, Juniper allegedly denied their request and called them full of "Don't text my MF phone again unless it's sent," she reportedly messaged. A woman named Wendy Williams also responded to Juniper's Facebook post and even attended the birth under the impression that she was adopting Juniper's baby.
She kept referring to him as my son. So when the nurses would ask her something, she'd say, "I don't know, check with his mom."
But while Juniper allowed Wendy and Wendy's husband to legally name the baby, unknown to the couple, she was still allegedly waiting for the highest bidder. In fact, since payment was never discussed, it wasn't until Juniper made a Facebook post about finding a home for the baby, tagging Wendy, that the woman learned the baby was for sale.
Hey, what is this? You know, a lot of people are sending me these screenshots. What is going on? And at that very moment, she requested that the nurse remove me from the room.
Wendy contacted the authorities and Juniper was arrested on October 30th. Her bond was recently doubled from $30,000 to $60,000. But now that authorities were becoming involved in these cases, would Facebook finally take a stand against the criminal activity festering on this platform? In May 2024, the DSWD has urged Facebook to remove these Facebook pages, but so far, nothing has happened. Just to give you a number, the National Authority for Childcare is aware of and keeping an eye on 20 to 40 pages selling babies pretending it's adoption. But if these pages are so easy to find, why is Facebook still not taking action? Since there's no specific law that bans selling babies online, unlike the laws for online child exploitation, the answer could be as simple as Facebook isn't doing anything because it doesn't legally have to do anything. But that's the funny thing about the law. There are all kinds of ways you can violate it. So the question became, somewhere along the way, had Facebook or its parent company Meta crossed any legal lines? It's been a long road for anyone trying to take legal action against Meta and Mark Zuckerberg. However, ever since Meta rolled out end-to-end encryption on Facebook and Messenger in December 2023, serious pressure has been mounting. It began when New Mexico Attorney General Raul Torres jumped in with a new lawsuit, saying that Facebook and Instagram have turned into playgrounds for predators involved in abuse and trafficking. To highlight the issue, Torres' team set up a fake profile for a 13-year-old girl during undercover investigation. What they found was shocking. Her profile was flooded with disturbing images and solicitations. He even mentioned that harmful content is 10 times more common on social media than on adult entertainment sites like Pornhub. Torres pointed out that nearly 100,000 kids are exposed to explicit content or face harassment every single day.
Are you saying that Mark Zuckerberg himself has ignored warnings about the safety of children on his service?
Absolutely. It is very clear to us that the warnings that have been issued throughout the company over numerous years have been elevated to the various highest levels. They have the resources, they have the technology, they have the ability. They just need to have the will, and they have to have the commitment.
And he's putting the blame squarely on Zuckerberg. In a congressional hearing last January 31st, 2024, lawmakers turned the spotlight on Meta and its efforts, or lack thereof, to protect children online.
Facebook is committed to building better products for young people and to doing everything we can to protect their privacy, safety, and well-being on our platforms. And she also said, kids' safety is an area where, quote, we are investing heavily. End quote. We now know that statement was untrue.
But how had Facebook allegedly failed their most vulnerable users? Internal documents from Meta have surfaced that suggest there's a big gap between what the company says about keeping young users safe and what's actually going on. Meta itself estimates about 100,000 kids a day on Facebook and Instagram experience online harassment, including pictures of adult genitalia. One striking example from 2020 involves the daughter of an Apple executive being solicited through Instagram DMs. A Meta employee commented on this situation. This is the kind of thing that pisses Apple off to the extent of threatening to remove us from the App Store. A 2021 internal Meta presentation revealed awareness of child safety issues, but underinvestment in solutions. The lawsuit also highlighted a July 2020 chat, where one Meta employee asked, "What specifically are we doing for child grooming?" Something I just heard about that is happening a lot on TikTok. The alleged response he received was, somewhere between zero and negligible. They even talked about how Messenger is being used to coordinate trafficking activities, and that every stage of exploitation was happening on their platform. Still, back in 2017, an internal email suggested executives were against scanning Messenger for harmful content, worried it would put them at a competitive disadvantage versus other apps who might offer more privacy. And a standout email from Nick Clegg, their global affairs president, also revealed that they knew there were problems but didn't have a real game plan to fix them.
We are not on track to succeed for our core well-being topics: problematic use, bullying and harassment, connections, and SSI, meaning suicidal self-injury.
And the steps that could have been taken to better protect users, such as some leaders asking for 45 to 85 new engineers to make things safer, were shot down.
We've done a calculation that those potentially 84 engineers would have cost Meta about $50 million in a quarter when it earned $9.2 billion. And yet it failed to make that commitment in real terms, and you rejected that request because of other pressures and priorities.
But it doesn't stop there. While Meta claims to have reported over 26 million cases of child exploitation to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, lawmakers argue that the real problem lies in the discoverability of harmful content on their platforms. For instance, they highlighted how Instagram's algorithms can promote dangerous hashtags, that they can lead users straight to inappropriate content involving children. But when it came to Meta and Facebook's oversights, were consequences looming? On January 31st, 2024, lawmakers grilled Mark Zuckerberg and other social media CEOs about child safety. Senator Josh Hawley specifically brought up Instagram's effects on teenage girls, claiming many are struggling with body image issues, anxiety, and depression due to the platform, in addition to exposure to harmful individuals on the platform.
So, for example, this is girls between the ages of 13 and 15 years old. 37% of them reported that they had been exposed to nudity on the platform unwanted in the last 7 days. 24% said that they had experienced unwanted advances they've been propositioned in the last 7 days. 17% said they had encountered self-harm content pushed at them in the last 7 days.
These shocking stats you just heard came from a whistleblower who used to work for Zuckerberg. Despite the accusations, Zuckerberg insisted there was no solid proof that social media is harmful to mental health. But Hawley wasn't buying it and demanded Zuckerberg take responsibility.
So let me ask you this. There's families of victims here today. Have you apologized to the victims? Would you like to do so now?
Well,
they're here. You're on national television. Would you like now to apologize to the victims who have been harmed by your product? Show them the pictures. Would you like to apologize for what you've done to these good people?
And this is why we invested so much and are going to continue doing industry-leading efforts to make sure that no one has to go through the types of things that your families have had to suffer.
But Hawley wasn't done. He then cornered Zuckerberg about compensation for the victims.
Your product is killing people. Will you personally commit to compensating the victims? You're a billionaire. Will you set up a compensation fund
Senator,
with your money?
I think these are
with your money.
Senator, these are complicated
Yes, that's not a complicated question. No, that's
Senator,
a yes or no. Will you set up a victims compensation fund with your money, the money you made on these families sitting behind you? Yes or no?
Senator, I don't think that's my job is to
Sounds
make sure
like a no.
we build good tools. My
Sounds
job
like a
is
no.
to make sure that
your job is to be responsible for what your company has done.
To top it off, Senator Lindsey Graham made it clear that the consequences of Zuckerberg and her peers' failure to protect users was devastating.
Zuckerberg, you and the companies before us, I know you don't mean it to be so, but you have blood on your hands. You have a product. You have a product that's killing people.
While many praised the senator for his aggressive approach, others criticized him for not allowing Zuckerberg to respond. And naturally, people began pointing fingers at the senators. These senators are the same people passing laws to make sure these platforms are not responsible in the first place, and the parents of these children for giving them a device with unrestricted access to the internet. 7 months after the hearing, controversy is stirring up again after a Twitter user questioned why the government doesn't arrest Zuckerberg, and Elon Musk jumped in, tweeting, "He censors free speech and gives governments backdoor access to user data." For example, Elon could be suggesting that the government asks Meta to censor or remove certain posts with misinformation, potential dissent, or controversial opinions, as well as provide access to private user data. In exchange, Zuckerberg could gain favor with authorities, which result in less pressure from regulators on the harmful content on Instagram. Still, there's no clear answer to fix this problem. In reality, harmful content can thrive whether there's too much or too little moderation. So how can this issue be tackled? Well, the US government is finally cracking down on child exploitation online with 2 new laws. Number 1, the Earn It Act. If platforms don't take down harmful content, they could get sued or even face criminal charges. But some people think this is just an excuse for the government to spy on private messages. Number 2, the Stop CSAM Act. This one makes companies report and stop child exploitation faster or face major fines. Basically, they're trying to make tech companies step up, and not everyone trusts their motives. As for Meta, they've taken some steps to improve safety, like putting smart systems in place to quickly block suspicious adults from connecting with minors or other predators. They've also updated their machine learning tools to spot shady terms and get rid of it faster. Warnings now pop up, and older predator keywords and hashtags don't work anymore. But when it comes to the illegal baby trade, it's hard to say if they've fully cleaned up. After all, these criminals could be finding new ways to fly under the radar. If this story has shown us anything, it's that sick people exist in the places you least expect, and platforms don't always catch everything. So, it comes down to parents or guardians to take preventative measures to fully protect their young ones. Whether that's by adjusting privacy settings, adding monitoring apps, teaching them how to recognize red flags, or more. Being prepared can help you create a world where your kids can explore more safely.